Hey everybody, Dave here. Hope you're having an awesome day. So today we're going to venture a little bit outside of the world building that I've been doing with Professor Malcolm and Endo and my robot world. And we're going to be doing a robot that you can build. I have made a little kit. It's a model kit called Botnab Bag, and it is based off of one of my robots that I built. And I built this about a year ago and showed them at DesignerCon, and they went really well. So I thought, you know what? I finally was able to get around to getting a FDM printer, and I can make some new robots. And literally right out of the bag, you can put this thing together, and it makes a really cool little robot to put on your shelf. But if you want to go full on Dr. Toys and actually sand, prime, weather, I've got all kinds of tips and tricks in this video. So even if you're not going to get one of these, I think this video will still be helpful. Stay tuned to the very end. I'm going to show you how to get one of these bad boys, and I'll leave my email address and some information about how to get one of these at the very end of the video. So for now, let's go build this guy. Come on, let's do it. Start off with what you'll need. You'll definitely need a sharp X-Acto blade. If you have a little miter saw, you could use this, but you don't need this. You can use the blade instead. You'll need some sandpaper. I'm going to use some dry 220 grit, and then I'm going to use some wet sand 1200. And then this is a nice to have. You don't have to, but a little emery board. Definitely going to need some super glue. I use BSI, but there's all kinds. Primer, 2-in-1 filler is great. Your base color, I just use this teal. You could use whatever color you want. Here's a little silver spray. This is a Rust-Oleum, but they also make an acrylic silver spray. And if you don't have a spray, maybe just a brush on silver could work as well. This will be for the arms and the legs. This black here and a little brush will be for our weathering and chipping at the end. And you don't have to use a fancy black Citadel. You could use Sharpies, cheapy acrylic paint, all that stuff. So let's get into the Botnab Bag. What is in this Botnab Bag? So first off, we're going to have a little cutting guide. I'll show you that a little bit later. This is a parts list. Essentially, that'll be kind of your manual on how to put this together. For the parts, I've got lower body. Let me dump the rest out here. We've got some polystyrene. We've got a left and a right fist, upper body. We've got 2 feet. We've got our head. I've got a little baggie here. I put this in a separate bag so you don't lose little parts, but there's a little eye and then a little sensor in there. We got our shoulders, our little hips, and our thighs, a left and right thigh, and then our connector, and that'll be our legs and arms. Now I did include a cutting guide here, so the best way to use this is actually just to line up your polystyrene against I'm doing the shoulder peg here, and just do a pencil mark visually, mark that. Now, if you have a little miter box and saw, you can actually just drop your piece in there, line it up, and then cut that. But if you don't, that's okay, because you can actually use an X-Acto blade. If you got a brand new fresh blade, just line your blade up right on your line, and then kind of start slowly. Just give it a little roll and keep going back and forth. I rotate it just a little bit and roll it again. And after you do that, really you just go snap and it pops right off. Now, you will see there's a little bit of a jagged edge on there. That's not a huge deal. I'm just going to get my little sanding board here and clean that up. And there you go. That's how you're going to cut your pieces for your robot. Okay, you're going to notice that FDM printing does give these weird little lines, so it's not a huge deal. I did inset all of the pieces, so sanding would be super simple. And I learned this from Adam Savage, but if you put it in a figure 8, it helps sand a little bit more evenly. There are going to be some weird little corners that are hard to get, so just take a little piece of 220, cut it up, and then you can use it by hand, just kind of sanding where you need. Now, this is not the one that I was working on, but I did want to show you this little goober here. There may be 1 or 2 in there that I overlooked, and there's a little goober on your printout. Not a big deal, because you can actually fix this pretty easily. I'm going to show you a couple ways. This way is using some super glue, and I'm just going to kind of smooth that out a little bit. And I'm only doing half of this because I want to show you another technique. But I'm going to take some baking soda while the super glue is wet, drip that on there, brush that off, and I let it dry for maybe 15 seconds or so, and then do a quick little sand. I'm doing a really light sand, but you can see it really fills in that half. It acts kind of like a little Bondo. You could also use Tamiya putty. This stuff is a little bit pricey, and it is a little bit messy, so this is one thing you could use. That's just wanted to show you that there. But this is also another thing, this plastic wood filler. I found this actually works pretty nice as well. I'm just going to get a little glob of that, and I'm going to fill this second half. Put that on there. And you do have to let this dry. And also, if you are going to try and wet sand, this does come off with water until it's primed or cured, so just be careful with that. But yeah, here's a quick little sample of it's dry, and I'm going to just flip this over, give it a quick little sand. And again, I'm not pushing really hard, just kind of lightly sanding. And yeah, that's a cool little technique if you want to. You use that. I have gone through and sanded all the parts, and now I'm going to wet sand. So sanding gets some pretty big scratches in there. The wet sanding helps minimize the scratches, but it doesn't get rid of all the scratches. You'll notice on the eye here, there's a little tiny notch. So if you take your X-Acto blade, again, maybe just clean that up just a little bit. That'll help the eye set in a little bit later. And I'm going to trim the bottom part here. And the part where the little sensor is going to go, I'm going to just do a quick little clean out of that as well. I don't want to go too crazy because I'm not trying to open up the hole huge. I just want to clean that up just a little bit. Now in this bag, I've got the eyeball and I've got a little sensor. So I just wanted to show you the eyeball that's just going to drop in there. There's that little sensor. It's just a little bit smaller bead. I think it's a 2 millimeter bead. Then I've got the neck collar and I've got the 2 earpieces. Now the earpieces, they do have a flat side. You can kind of look and see where it's rounded. Oops, dropped that. But they will click into place. I'll glue those later, but I'm not going to glue them yet because I want to be able to have all the parts loose so I can paint them. But it actually is a really nice fit, and they just plug right in. The neck is also kind of cool because I have it tapered, so you could actually put it either way. You could put it facing this way. I'm doing it this way, so I'll flip it over. But again, this is your bot, so you can kind of build it however you want. The 2 shoulders, they're symmetrical, so it doesn't matter left or right. When you are sanding the shoulders, you will find that there is a little ledge there, so it might be helpful to take a little piece of sanding paper or, again, a little emery board and use that to help sand those harder to get areas. The emery board's nice. I got those on Amazon, pretty cheap. On the shoulders here, I am just going to double check that the holes are clean. The hip will slide into the lower body. I'm not going to click it in just yet because it is a really tight fit. So here's the left and right leg. I've got 2 little slots here, but you can put them on the front or the back. I'm going to do it on the front, but again, your bot, you can kind of do how you want. As you're sanding, you will get some buildup. Go ahead and just take it to your trash can, dump that off. It'll make life a little bit easier. Now on the thumb here, on the underside, you can see a little bit of the FDM printing. So again, I'm going to take some of this all-purpose wood putty, this plastic wood, and I saw this online somewhere. Somebody took a little bit of water. You could use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and make a little slurry here. And then just kind of carefully dab, kind of fill in those holes, and then brush it and kind of paint it out. And yeah, that turned out pretty nice. Here's another little trick you could do is take an old X-Acto blade, pick up some of that wood filler, and kind of just smear it on, almost like you're icing a cake. I'm kind of just mashing it into those little grooves and then pulling it like a little spatula. And that worked out pretty nice as well. There's a little notch in this, but I'm going to just leave that and weather it with the paint later. So I'll show you that in a little bit. For the feet, I do need to do a little bit of sanding on the top. There's a little bit of lines from the FDM printer. So either the emery board or your sandpaper. And now it's time to paint these things. So I use like old sticks, but this boba straw worked out really nice for this bigger square hole that I didn't really have a stick to fit. So find some little sticks that you can kind of plug in there, chopsticks, old paintbrushes, all that kind of stuff works. For these smaller little pieces, I could lay them on a little piece of scrap board and spray, but a lot of times they'll blow off. So what I like to use is this double stick tape. And I'll take like an old craft stick. I've got a whole bag of craft sticks. Put it on there and then just stick my little pieces on there. I'm going to space them out just a little bit so I have enough to spray all the way around 360. And yeah, just kind of give them a little bit of pressure and they stick right on. Even that big piece holds really nice. And I'll be able to spray all the way around and get nice coverage on that. I wanted to show you, I did not prime this before I painted it. You can see all the scratches, so I did use that filler primer. And you can see after I filled and primed it and repainted, it looks way, way better. I got my polystyrene painted silver, dropped those legs in for the hips. I'm using a little square piece here so the legs and the body don't rotate and fall on you when you put it on your desk. But it's really loose, so we're going to have to glue that in later. For the side pieces there, I painted those silver. I'll go ahead and push those in. And then the antenna, that'll drop in. Now, I'm not really gluing anything together just yet because I'm kind of trying to get a dry fit to see how everything looks. But this piece here has paint buildup where it slides in, so I should have maybe masked that off so it would assemble a little bit nicer. But I'm going to go ahead and plug in the core connector there. Nice little silver. I like that. Now, for the legs, I'm going to do those stripes on the front like I mentioned. And again, I'm kind of just fitting everything together. The legs fit really nicely. Again, a really nice tight fit. I'm going to end up not even gluing these. That way I can pose the legs back and forth. I'm going to put those 2 dots on the back side. Again, if you want them on the front, you can do that. I'm just trying to figure out how the legs are fitting, and I want to put the torso on, and then I want to put the arms on to see the length of the arms, just to make sure that they're not going longer than the legs so it stands up. Ran into some paint issues here, so I'm going to have to sand that out. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and continue to dry fit everything, put the upper body on. And then the shoulder pegs, I did spray paint these silver, and you'll see here I'm struggling with them a little bit. This might have been something where I masked off the polystyrene so it went in a little bit easier, because when it wasn't painted, they fit really nice. Once they're painted, it was really hard to get on, but I was able to push them on. Now the fist, this is a totally different story. Again, not painted, it went in there really nice, but I cannot for the life of me get these on there. So I'm going to leave that for a second. I'm going to check out the shoulder. And with a little bit of pressure, that did push on there, so that's great. And now I'm going to try it on the body portion. That fits really nice. And I've got a nice little fit there, so I'm not going to have to glue that. But I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to dip it in there and just see how deep I need to sand. So I'm kind of just doing a quick eyeball, lining that up, taking some sandpaper. Did a quick little test run. It's still a little bit tight, so I'm going to sand it a little bit more. After a little bit of sanding, there we go. That's what I want. So if you run into those struggles, maybe mask ahead of time, or if you're not fitting, go ahead and do a little bit of sanding and you should be fine. Now this piece, I kind of was a dummy. This neck piece I painted silver. Everything is super tight, but the neck piece, it doesn't even show at the end, so I didn't even have to paint that. So don't paint the neck piece silver like me, because it made my life really difficult. I did actually put it on the table and just smash it, and I got it to sink all the way down, but yeah, you can see that neck piece isn't even showing, just the collar showing. So sanded the fists and then went ahead and repainted that. I actually did the fist, the legs, quite a little bit of touch up. And there it is. It looks great. Nothing is glued yet because I'm going to pull all these pieces apart so I can do my weathering. And just being able to have individual pieces that I can hold will make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to use this black Citadel. Like I said, you can use whatever you want, but this is a little bit thinner, more liquidy paint, so it does flow a little bit nicer. If you're using just a cheap craft acrylic paint, I would suggest watering it down just a little bit so it flows a little bit more. Now as you're doing this, I'm literally just barely letting the edge of the brush touch that, letting it skip, hop, just taking my time. I really enjoy doing this, but you have to hit every corner. And at first, it's going to be a little scary. You're going to be like, I don't know if this is working, but just take your time. Now, I was trying to fill in this X here, and it's not, I thought it was because of the gloss, I'd be able to just wipe off the black paint, but it didn't quite work how I was thinking. And so I kind of made a mess of this. Just got a cloth there and tried rubbing it off. Some of the black paint stuck on there. These kind of things really bother me because I want this to look as perfect as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and finish painting the X out. And you can see I'm kind of goobering things up. And at this point, I am a little bit frustrated because I am super meticulous when it comes to this kind of stuff. And this is bothering me. So one thing I'm going to do is maybe add a little bit of chipping to kind of hide some of my sins that I smear and paint around. And you'll actually see at the very end of the video, I don't still love this exactly, so I have a little trick up my sleeve that will fix this. But here I am just kind of painting some scratches across, again, just trying to hide some of those mistakes. So here I'm going to try this again. I'm slowing down, a little bit more careful, load up the brush, get it in there, and I'm trying to do a nice long pull. And this turned out a little bit better. I like how this turned out. So I'm just filling some of these areas black. Again, you can fill these different colors. If you wanted a yellow or something, that could be kind of cool. But there it is, kind of some of the chipping. And I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm going to move on to the rest of the body, do a little bit of chipping on the head. I did do a little bit of chipping around the eye. So when I glue that eye in, it'll have a little bit of kind of texture around the eye there. I like that. Just finishing up the bottom portion there. Again, as little or as much as you want. This is kind of your bot. You can see I filled in the lines there, filling in the number. Again, you could switch up these colors if you wanted the 7 to be red. That could be kind of cool. I just had the black out, so I'm going to go with that. Speaking of red, I'm going to take a little bit of this red and fill in one of the buttons red. Maybe it's like a red light, and then I thought maybe a little green light. This green is a really bright green, so it almost looks yellow on this light tan, but that's okay. Continuing some chipping around the top of the chest here. And again, I'm going to chip the entire body, so any angle, you're going to have to lay paint down. Now, I got this weird little bump. Maybe it's like dust or something when I was spray painting. That happens. I could either sand that out, repaint it. In this case, I'd already got going on this, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just make it look like it's a little chip. So you just dab your little brush, couple of spots here and there, and it looks maybe like little rust chips. And then I'm going to add a couple little scratches, just barely pull the brush there. That looks pretty cool. All right, that's the upper body. I'm going to continue with the lower torso, the legs. For the feet, I am going to paint the soles of these shoes black. What you do is load up your brush with a decent amount of paint, kind of sneak up on it. Hit the corner there, and then feel that edge there, and then just give it a nice pull. Take a deep breath, load it up, and then pull, 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 don't stop, boom. I love that. And then once you got that, you can kind of load up your brush again, give a nice pull, and fill in some of those areas. I have been doing this a little bit, so it does get easier the more you do it. But again, just have some confidence and kind of follow that brush and see where it's going. Now, I was telling you about the mistakes that I made. I didn't really love it, so I'm just going to take the lid of this spray paint can, spray just a couple of squirts, and dip my brush in there and do some cleanup work. This is the same green that I used as the base. And you can see already it's giving that X a little bit more definition. It's a little bit cleaner. I didn't really love exactly how I put that scratch down through the bottom there, so I'm going to kind of clean that up just a tiny bit. And this is just me, but the one problem with using the spray paint is you do need to have some paint thinner to get that out of your brush. Here's that little chip we were talking about on the knuckle earlier. I didn't bother filling that with the super glue or wood filler, but you can see here I'm just going to load a little bit of paint in there, make it a little chip. That looks awesome. I was putting red in here, and I got a little goober of red there, and I was like, oh, I can clean that off. And so, are you kidding me? Okay, get out my spray paint again and do that touch up. All right, time to glue this thing together. Nothing major here. Just put a little bit of super glue there. I'll glue this first block in. And like I was saying earlier, I didn't bother gluing the shoulders. I didn't glue the arms. I didn't glue the head. I did glue the legs. Now, again, I mentioned this earlier, but I made the legs a square peg instead of round. Because my previous bots, when I did this, I had a round tube there, and sometimes it was loose and the torso would actually drop and it wouldn't stand up. So I thought, this is kind of nice. It's just sitting on your desk. I know you can't pose the legs, but the legs really wouldn't do much anyway. So we'll kind of glue those into place. The eye, I'm just going to do a little dab of glue, drop the eye in. I'll do this kind of off to the bottom of the camera so you can't see. For the little sensor, again, a little dab of glue, a little too much glue, and it kind of oozed out all over the place. So just take a paper towel, and it actually will just wick up a little bit of that extra glue, so that's pretty nice. All right, now that that's dry, I'm going to go ahead and glue the last leg on here. Put a little dab in there, slide it on, kind of line it up exactly where I want it to be, and then I'll just let that stand there and dry. So while that's drying, I will go ahead and glue in the antenna. Again, I got a little too much glue on there, so I'm going to just take this paper towel and just wipe that down just a tiny bit, and then we'll just pop that in the hole. I did spray paint this the antenna silver as well. Again, you could paint that black if you wanted to. That's looking pretty great. All right, we'll do last piece of glue here. This will glue the lower portion of the body to the upper portion of the body. And I think we're about ready to wrap this one up. I think this is looking great. Yeah, this was a really fun project. Okay, first off, I want to apologize. The camera I normally use died, so I'm using my iPhone here. But anyways, this was a really fun build. He's a great little bot. And if you're a brand new builder and you're like, I'm not exactly sure where to start, I think this is a great place to start. And if you're an old builder and you're like, hey, I just want something kind of super simple, I don't really have to think about it a lot, this is also a really fun bot to build. So with my Botnab Bag, I've only got a couple of these that I'm able to post. So if you are interested, go ahead and hit me up on drtoys@yakstub.com, and we'll figure out mailing and all that stuff. And what I'm going to do is, at the show, these are going to be $25. So for my YouTube viewers within the US, I'm going to do free shipping. Now, if you're outside of the US, still contact me. We'll figure out how much shipping is and all that good stuff. But within the US, I'm going to do free shipping, $25. I know I'll eat it a little bit, but that's okay because I want to get these in your hands. I would love for people to hashtag this on my Instagram, Dr. Toys, and I'll repost this and show people what you guys are making. So, yeah, make sure to hit me up on drtoys@yakstub.com. Let's do some turnaround shots of this thing. At the very end, I've got a little video of the glowing eye. It's pretty cool. So, as always, it's a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a great one.